Welcome to the Courage to Live podcast. My name's Josh Bitsko. I'm a retired police captain with 24 years of experience. Currently, I travel the country and I teach people about courage, resilience, and leadership. Joined by my wife, Jenna, also co-host.
Hi.
And you notice a little different background. You want to talk about our new aesthetics?
Yeah, for all of our YouTube viewers, we switched up where we're filming. We had our friend Jesse Reisdorf, who is a great videographer if you ever need one. Just Google his name. He's great, but he kind of gave us some tips and tricks on how to set up our cameras better.
Yeah, and also we noticed that the sound on the first couple ones that we did were a little muted. It wasn't the best audio quality. It
sounded like we were recording at home.
Which we kind of are.
Yes.
And as I am currently our producer.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're listening to this one on a little better audio. Like I said, we really want to have a great experience for our listeners, along with content, like we talk about, a little bit of humor, and then some pretty heavy stories. And I think that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about today.
Speaking of heavy stories, as we were playing with the format for this series, we got to talking the other day. We actually had 2 other podcasts recorded, and we decided we were going to kind of change up what we were talking about over the next couple of weeks. So we thought it would be a good idea to talk about a couple more of the big experiences that Josh had in his policing career to kind of set the stage a little bit for his upcoming book, which is releasing on October 1st. And we just thought it would kind of give a little bit more context to the book if he went through and maybe explained some of these other experiences that he's had that really impacted him deeply.
Yeah, and I think it's good for people that read the book to find the podcast, or people that listen to the podcast that go to the book, get a little bit of extra content, maybe a delivery in a different way than in the book. And the book's called The Courage to Live. It's available. It will be available on Amazon. And I am very excited. I'm also a little scared because there's a lot in the book. It's more than just stories. I think a lot of retired police officers, we have so many different stories that we can collect and write a book. And everyone's like, oh, you should write a book. That's interesting. But I wanted it to be a little more than that too. I wanted it to be also about my journey and how I was able to overcome the effects of some of the difficult things that I've been through, because for a long time I didn't. So yes, it's a little vulnerable to put it out there too, but I'm hoping that it can help people. I mean, honestly, if it only helps 1 or 2 people, then it was a success. And I take that same attitude when I teach a class. I'm teaching in front of a room full of 100 cops, or 100 people, or 100 business leaders. And if at least even one person walks out, now hopefully more than that, but if one person walks out and it helps them, then I know that I was able to make a difference with some of the things that I've been through. So the experience we're going to talk about today, I was involved in an officer-involved shooting with our SWAT team 6 weeks after the 1 October shooting. It was November 9th, and it was related to a search warrant for a double homicide suspect. And so for those that don't know, I was a K-9 sergeant, worked a police dog, Loki. We have had some requests for a episode on Loki. People like dogs, so hopefully I can, go into his experience in an upcoming episode. But our SWAT team works hand in hand with our K-9 section. So a lot of our dogs have been through the training, and the handlers have been through the SWAT school training to be able to work alongside them on serving search warrants. And it makes it a lot safer for cops that are, clearing a house, looking for somebody potentially hiding, because the police dogs, their best tool is their nose, and they can find hiding people by smelling them and letting us know where they're at. And it's also a good, low level force tool, or intermediate force, meaning it's not likely to kill somebody or cause significant injury. But a bite is scary, and I've been bit a couple times. So we got the call is a subject had killed both of his neighbors. Well, let me back up. The original call was they just found 2 dead bodies in the front yard of a house. And so homicide and patrol, they go out and they're doing their investigation. An interesting fact about this incident, because it was right around Halloween, the bodies actually were in the front yard for about a week because people thought they were Halloween decorations. It's part of being in Las Vegas. Nobody knows their neighbors. But
okay. So question, would they have had a smell? Like, did nobody smell the bodies?
I mean, outside, it's not going to be as concentrated. Mm-hmm. So yes, they would after a week, and it was, October. So it's not the end of October, early November. So it's starting to cool down, and we know that heat can make that smell worse. But no, I mean, initially it wasn't. People just thought they were Halloween decorations and kept walking by.
Which, to your point, it is very true in Las Vegas that I think it's just such a transient city that people here, it's a very rare occurrence that you know your neighbors, that you speak to them on a regular basis, that you're friends. So that does not surprise me. I know that's not the culture everywhere, but here that is predominantly the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we know our neighbors now, but other houses that I lived in before, I maybe knew a first name. So it just kind of how it happens here in Vegas. So our homicide team went out, they're doing their investigation, and, over the course of their investigation, someone came up and pointed out that, hey, the neighbor that lives across the street or next door from where the two victims were found is severely mentally ill. And we're saying that, they feel that that person might be responsible for this. So homicide knocked on the door. They even bullhorned for a while of the suspect's house to see if they could get him to come out. And there was no answer, no movement, no any kind of notification that he was inside. They had no contact with him. So they were wrapping up because they didn't have probable cause, which is, the evidence needed to make an arrest or get a search warrant for the house at that point. So they were wrapping up their investigation and getting ready to leave. And a family member of the suspect came home and opened the garage door. And when they did with the clicker, one of the victim's cars was inside the suspect's garage, which is a clue and enough for a search warrant. So they, called the SWAT team. Homicide started working on a search warrant. And now this had been going on for hours. It was going on before I even logged on at the time. I think I started at probably 6 or 7 p.m. because I worked graveyard at the time. So I get the notification that they need 2 dogs for a search warrant. Well, it was only me and another handler were available at that time. Of the night, everybody else was either on calls or training. We still had new dogs going through new dog training. So the other handler and myself went out, and what you do is you do a big SWAT brief before, where the detectives give all the information. They've recon the house. You just basically get all the tactics in line so everybody knows the plan to go serve the search warrant looking for this double murder suspect. And so when they're briefing it, I usually took the back. So there's 2 main positions with the police dog. There's somebody in the front with the SWAT team that will send the dog, past the team into clear rooms and pull him back out. And then the SWAT will, move forward, and it kind of works in tandem. And there's a lot of training that happens to allow a police dog to work with a team like that. I generally, because I was a sergeant, and so I was in charge of leading the team, I generally didn't take the front at this point unless I had to, because I had to be available to go to other calls. If one of my handlers had a use of force or something like that, and I had to go investigate it, I wanted to be available. And it's easier to leave when you're on the back. And the back is just containment. If someone were to run out, you deploy the dog or take him into custody. But when they start briefing what the level of violence that was part of this crime, I mean, a double murder, which, they happen, but they're a little more rare. It was done with a homemade weapon with a knife at the end of a golf club or something along those lines. And because of that level of violence, and the other dog was a newer dog and not quite as proven, and Loki, albeit a handful, was really good at this kind of stuff. He was just loud. He would just bark a lot because he was just so excited. Loki had a lot of big feelings.
He and you were very similar.
Yes. But he was loud, but he was good at what he did. He was a tough dog. And so when they were briefing it out, I was like, let's switch it up and I'll take the front, just because I trust my dog in that position more. And it doesn't mean the other dog was a bad dog. It wasn't. He was a good police dog turned into a good police dog. Again, he was just newer and less proven in a situation where you don't want to risk, or you want to mitigate mistakes as much as possible. So we get done briefing it. We go and we, you surround the house, start trying to call in, start trying to communicate. We're trying to de-escalate, which it seems, crazy to say you're de-escalating with a SWAT team, but we're doing everything we can at that point to try and make contact with the suspect, get visual, like do anything we can to establish communication to try and get him out. We actually rolled pretty slow on this one compared to other search warrants. But when we still had no response, we eventually had to go in and search and look for him. So we went in through the garage. They took the first door. They, opened the door from the garage into the house, had me come up, and I had to send my dog in downstairs in the first couple rooms. And this is actually pretty funny. Kai, who was holding the shield on the door. And so I had to send Loki between his legs into the house. And again, Loki, he's just very excitable. He had never in his career been a SWAT guy, but he was just, like I said, he was very intense. So even the SWAT guys were a little wary around him. So I send him through Kai's legs, and he goes to search the first couple rooms in this hallway, a bathroom and small bedroom and whatnot. And he basically almost roared when he ran because he had so much pent up energy, because he knew something awesome's going to happen. Like, this is fun, going and searching for bad guys. Like, if you're listening to this and you have a dog at home who loves a tennis ball, and you throw a tennis ball and they just get so excited, that's a police dog with a bad guy, like, in their head. So this is the most fun he's going to have ever in his life. Sometimes when he'd find a bad guy, people would say, "Oh, did you get him a treat?" I'm like, that was his treat. Like, that's what he wants. So, but anyway, he clears that first hallway, and it was funny because he was so excited because of it just took so long to get up into the room into that hallway, that he just had so much pent up energy. So he's just barking, he's searching, he's running in every room. He runs back and he actually jumps up and puts both paws on the shield that Kai's holding and launches off and goes back the other direction. And I remember saying to Kai, like, "Did he get you?" Like, I didn't, because I couldn't see. It's dark, and we all have helmets on and all of that. He's like, no, he didn't. So cleared downstairs, had to clear around into the kitchen area and kind of the rest of the house.
And this is taking a long time, right? This isn't a slow process, or is it?
No, it is. It is a slow process because, you can't pass something without being 100% that it's clear. So say I would send Loki in, he would go into the first room, I'd call him back. He would do directions if I told him left or right. The canine joke is he's always right 50% of the time, because he would just guess. He knew I was telling him to turn, but he didn't really have a great understanding of which direction is which. So then we clear another room, and then we had to go upstairs and clear the upstairs. So again, this is over the course of like an hour and a half or 2 hours. We actually sent him upstairs from downstairs. It was funny because Levi, and so the team was at the bottom of the stairs. Levi was the team leader, who's also the SWAT guy that was with me on 1 October that we talked about in our other podcast. And so I sent Loki up the stairs, but I was in a position where Loki couldn't see me, and Levi knew it. So when Loki started to come back, he actually told Loki, "No, go out, go left." And he listened to him, which I thought was funny because half the time he didn't even listen to me. So we made our way upstairs, went into a master bedroom. We cleared every room out that we could upstairs with the dog and with the team. And there was one door that was shut at the end of the hallway. So we end up in the master bedroom, the whole team, and we have a shield down to the hallway to the closed door. Again, we haven't heard a word from this guy. He hasn't called out to us. We've been trying to make contact, have nothing. We don't know if he's in there.
At this point, are you thinking that he escaped somehow?
So we're thinking either he escaped, or oftentimes when it's a crime this serious, they'll end up taking their own lives. And so I've done these types of operations where we find the person deceased. So that was, in our heads too. So we go and hang an explosive breach on the closed door. make our way back into the master bedroom, try and make contact again with the suspect, nothing. And so we do a breach and blow the door off. Now you have the SWAT team. I go, okay, dog up, which is the code for me to come bring my dog to the front of the stack so I can send him into the room. And I literally told him I need like 30 seconds and it wasn't for me. It was Loki was so excited because now he hears an explosion and he knows something for him good is going to come after that. So, and he would get so excited that if I like worked him up, oh, you're going to get the bad guy. I'd let him go and he would just bite what was closest, a doorknob, drywall, a SWAT guy, which he never did, but I knew he was thinking about it. And so I calmed him down for a second and I sent him. He basically does his like long bark, which sounds like a roar as I let him go. He runs into the room that we had breached the door on. This was the last room. It's the only one we hadn't cleared at that point. Garage, backyard, every room in there. And so he goes in and he just doesn't come out. And now, mind you, every room he clears, he cleared very fast because he's a very fast dog. He would run in, run out. He'd hit every corner and run out. And he didn't come out. And I remember Levi's like, looks at me. He's like, what's he doing? I'm like, I don't know. He's probably biting someone. Now I'll tell you in my head, I was thinking because I didn't hear a commotion. I didn't hear screaming. I didn't hear anything indicative of every other time Loki had bit someone up till this point of what that would sound like. So, but he would bite, let's say if it was a dead body, if the person again had taken their own life, he would bite that and that would sound like this. So I think I even said, the guy might have, taken his life and Loki might be biting that, but I don't know. So we work our way down the hallway and we stop to where we can kind of see in the room. I can see somebody laying on the ground. I can see Loki moving around as though he's biting someone. And I remember Levi say, hey, can you release him from here? And so a release is to have him let go from biting the suspect and come back to me. So we don't have to go in the room and navigate that. And at that point, I said, maybe, because now, again, it's try getting your dog to let go of a tennis ball away from you. And the tennis ball might be fighting back and they're excited. And so I was like, he might. So I remember giving him his release command. And initially I did think he'd let go, but what really happened is he was biting the suspect who was trying to wrestle with him. And then when he let go, the suspect just like latched down tighter on him to hold him down.
It's absolutely wild when you think about the fact that this person was making no noise while a dog was attacking him.
Correct.
And that to me is like, how?
Well, I have experienced people with, mental illness because the big thing about when a police dog apprehends you is it's scary. And so when people are scared, they have a reaction, they tend to give up. But when there's mental illness there, they don't really have that same reaction. Yeah, they have a higher pain tolerance. And like, again, there's just this thing that looks like a predator that's attacking you that creates this like internal response. And when there's a higher level of mental illness or drugs, they don't have the same reaction. But yes, that was the only time because Loki was, even if they weren't screaming, he was so enthusiastic when he was biting somebody that there would be, he'd knock stuff over, run into walls. Like he was very excitable. So I tried to release him. He didn't. So we knew we had to go into the room. My job at that point, I don't even have a gun in my hand. Like I'm surrounded by all these SWAT guys with, ARs and pistols and all their shields and everything. My only job is to get my dog and make sure he doesn't bite one of them. And so I'm very much focused on that. This is a small bedroom. It's like a 10 by 10 bedroom. The power was out. So it was dark. I just have flashlights lighting everything up. And so we make entry into the room and I'm laser focused on getting Loki. And so I reached down to grab him. One of the other SWAT guys who was with me literally reaches out and grabs Loki and starts to hand him to me. And I reach down and grab his collar And when I did, that's when the suspect came up with a gun. I'll tell you that it just happened so fast. And again, you always have to expect something like that and be ready for it. But still, it's just like going from dogs biting someone. I have this job to do. I'm focused on the dog. Levi is up on top of the suspect, like behind him, reaching and grabbing him to try and, because when we make entry, he's on top of Loki. Loki's kind of twisted around and he's on top of Loki. So Levi's grabs him to pull him off of the dog. And so when I reach down and I'm grabbing Loki, that's when the gun comes up and it's aimed directly at me. Levi actually said he saw him come up with the gun, saw down his arm, saw down his sights, saw my head behind his sights, and saw him pulling the trigger. So I reach up, I have Loki by his collar and I'm pulling him into me because again, I have SWAT guy here, like they're all over me in this tiny room. And so I pull Loki into my chest, and I have a big vest on and all that. And I imagine he just had been fighting somebody for a couple minutes. So he was obviously worked up too. So I reach and I grab the gun and I'm trying to pull the gun to the side. And I also say to the team, because it's dark, I don't know what everybody else is seeing. So I yell, gun, gun, gun. So everybody knows that the person is armed. But Levi saw this at the same time that I'm yelling, gun, gun, gun. So he separates and he shoots and he shoots him. And so does Kai, who I mentioned earlier, and shoot and kill him. And literally like right there. So what it turned out is, we didn't have all the intel on this person at this point, but he had a real gun that he had taken off one of the victims, and he had a pellet gun that he always carried on him. But the pellet gun looked real. I mean, it was a silver, small framed handgun. And in talking to the investigators, what we believed happened is he was waiting in the corner of the room for us to make entry and had a gun in each hand. And when the dog came in and he extends the gun out and Loki bites that arm, he gets in a fight with Loki because they find the real gun underneath him, right where we were all trying to get him into custody. And so suspects laying on the ground, shot, killed, obvious at that point. But they're trying to give him aid, trying to get medical. They have SWAT doctors and with them and all that, trying to render aid to the guy. And I'm literally up against, because at that point, I'm just trying to get out of the way. Like I have this 95-pound dog who was just in a fight for, several minutes. And I mean, think about emotionally, they're very similar to us, right? If you've been fighting a guy and he's amped up, and I'm in a small room with probably 5, 6, 7 of us in the room. And so I'm holding him up against me and I'm like trying to tell him, I need to get him out of here and let you guys do your thing. Or he's going to bite somebody. So I kind of weave him through them out of the door. I go down and, I walk him back and forth, make sure he's not hurt. He wasn't. And, I go put him in my canine truck, because it can give him some water, let him chill a little bit. But then I was so mad about how everything went down that I kicked a giant dent in the side of my canine truck. Just booted it, which, when I talk about in the book and we talk about it, that anger, it's often that concealing another emotion, right?
Emotion was that concealing for you? Because, listening to this story, I think it might surprise people that anger was the emotion that came out at that time when you just had a gun pointed to your head and the guy was pulling the trigger. Obviously, as you said, it was the pellet gun that he was pointing, but nobody knew that at the time, and the real gun was underneath him. So knowing all of that, why do you think it was anger, and what do you think that was covering for?
So up until then, my police dog, every person that he had bitten, that he had apprehended, we never had to use deadly force. The whole intent of a police dog is to not use deadly force. And especially in that situation. So, that anger, but it was really just like shame because, and I can look back on it and say we didn't do anything different. I mean, could you approach things differently? Of course, but we did everything. That guy made a decision to aim a gun at me. But the other part of that is like, it just, for me, it felt like a failure. And so, but because that shame is a harder emotion to feel than anger is what comes out. And just in the process of trying to, even in that moment, process what happened. Like, it wasn't, so it happened so fast. It did happen fast, but I didn't have any question about what happened. Like, he aimed a gun at me. I grabbed the gun, tried to slap it out of the way. Yeah.
As they should.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm very lucky that Kai and Levi were there and, able to do that. And now they have their own, emotions surrounding this. And so
for me, it's the fact that you and Levi both were even at work at this point. So this was 6 weeks after 1 October. And to me, you guys probably shouldn't have even been at work, right?
Yeah. I mean, in a perfect world and with everything that we had both experienced during that night, we probably needed some beach time and sit down in therapy and all the things that, I preach now. But with that being said, like, in that time of my life, I was very resistant to that. Like, and not that it was even offered to me, but I wouldn't have wanted it because I wanted to be at work.
Well, and I think that was probably some of the emotions coming up too, was mentally you were not in a place to even be processing or dealing with any of that because it was so close to 1 October and you hadn't even processed that yet.
Correct. And so to go through something like this, that soon after, it was just stacking traumatic incidents that I wasn't taking any steps to process. And it's like, it's a weird way to describe it, but even in the moment of this shooting and afterwards, it's like I didn't have room for another one. Like, I couldn't even think about it because I was still thinking about the 1 October shooting. It was on the news every time you turn it on. The investigation was still going. Like, so I had all of that. And then this happened and it just like, I just kind of went beep, like I was a robot. And because it was like so overwhelming that was my only defense mechanism that I had. So again,
meaning you just shut down. Is that what you're meaning? You just shut down. You stopped feeling anything completely. What?
Yeah. So there's this idea, especially in law enforcement, but I think around men too, is like, it's hard to process through and it's hard to feel the hard thing. So you just push it down and don't feel it. And the scary thing about that is it works for a while. Like, it does stop the negative feelings. I'm just not going to think about it. I'm going to suppress those emotions. We call it compartmentalizing or whatever we want to call it. The problem is after a while, it stops working, or it works so well that you also don't feel joy. You don't feel anything good either. It's just like, I ended up just going through life as a zombie after these and other things that happened again in my personal life. It's like, I was just kind of like coasting. And yeah, what does trauma or depression or PTSD look like? At the time, people didn't know that I was struggling. At work, I put on a face and I'm like, working hard and going out and catching bad guys, or as a lieutenant or even as a captain. But because I wasn't feeling anything at all, like, I was just, like I said, a zombie, not feeling good, not feeling bad. But that to me was easier than going to therapy. To me was easier than trying to process and, come to grips with what I'd been through and try to come out on the other side more healthy, because numbing it is not being stoic. It's not helping you. And that's one thing it took me a long time to learn, because you can't get rid of the trauma. You can only process through it. You can only become stronger. And I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't want to feel it. I didn't want to talk about it.
There's a line in your book. So I got to read the book after the first round of edits, and I'm going to completely butcher this, so you're going to have to correct me. But you talk about how, I can't remember the beginning of the quote, but the end is about how going to therapy is courageous, going to therapy is brave. And I just started crying when I read that. And because it takes a lot to put yourself through the process to heal. It doesn't feel good. It sucks. Yeah. Like there's no way around it. So I think too, you came to a point where you could not handle being numb for one more moment. And this was one of the events that I think was kind of just, you were just on your way up to a tipping point. And this was right there, stacked right on top of it. But I think that's such a huge part of your book. That's a huge part of this podcast that we hope to get across to people, is that you don't have to let your trauma stack like that. You don't have to have these earth-shattering, life-altering moments to be able to finally push yourself to go get help. I think if you're able to, take those moments and get yourself help before you reach a tipping point, that's ideal. And you talk about that a lot in your book too.
Well, yeah, I mean, the intent behind that and why I talk about it so much is I don't want people to make the same mistakes I did, right? I took the long way, which I can be stubborn. So it's been mirrored in a lot of different other ways in my life too. But if someone can learn through my experiences, that's, again, was the goal of writing the book. Because, when you think about, like you mentioned it, therapy, like I've been in therapy for years at this point, and I still, before I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go in and talk about all these hard things and feel all these things. But I also know the value in it, because I always do feel better afterwards and have a better, even, I know it sounds cheesy, but a better outlook on life when going through that process. And listen, not every therapy session is this doom or gloom talking about these terrible things. Sometimes it's just a check-in, but sometimes it exposes things that you weren't even anticipating that were bothering you. So
how do you think that this experience shaped your life? What do you think changed? How did this change you, for the good or for the not so good?
Well, I mean, anytime you're involved in taking somebody's life, and yes, I'm not the one that pulled the trigger, but my dog was biting him. I was part of the team. I was part of the operation. It was because he was aiming a gun at me that he was shot in the first place. There's going to be some, I don't know cops that want to do that. I don't know cops that want to do that. So at the end of the day, I had a lot of guilt. I still have guilt over it, because like I talked about, you have these police officer or these incidents where someone is killed, and you sit there and you obsess. Could I have done something different? Could I have done something better? So that's the hard part, is still living with that guilt. As far as am I better for it? Yes, because all of these incidents drove me, because I was so stubborn, to finally get the help that I needed. I had on October my brother's suicide, my dad's death, like I had all these things that happened. And as terrible as they were, I am in such a better place, and I'm happy now. And, I can feel joy. And it doesn't mean I don't have my bad moments. It doesn't mean you don't take a couple steps back on your journey into having, becoming more resilient and having a better mental health. But the other thing is I'm able to help people through my experience. And even though I'm retired, I get to go and teach and sit in front of, just people, but cops and leaders, and talk about my experiences, and then talk about the hard parts too. Like, talk about therapy, talk about what I did to get better. And I've seen people open up because of it. So, like I said, it definitely did help me.
Do you and Levi and I ever talk about it?
Yes. I mean, when he came to my retirement party and he told the story, and we've talked about it a couple of times, dates are important for some reason. It just brings up memories. And so usually we'll text on the anniversary of it and just check in how we're doing. But yeah, we talk about it, but for a while we didn't. Like, we just didn't want to. So, but like I said, all in all of these things that have happened, they put me on a path to finally getting help, to finally becoming more resilient, to processing through what I've been through. And I'm the person I am today. And I mean, I'm the person that I am today, and I'm with you, which I don't know if our paths would have ended up crossing, or I would have been in a healthy enough place to have a relationship with you if I just kept shoving everything down. Who knows what would have happened.
And I'm proud of you for sharing this story. I know we're going to talk on our next episode about another incident Josh was involved in, where we had an active shooter here at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas in December of 2023. And Josh was not the canine handler this time. This was when he was a captain. He was an incident commander over that event. So we hope you'll tune in next week to listen to that episode.
And thank you for spending time with us. If you like the podcast, if you could please subscribe or even just share it with a friend. So thank you guys so much.